Good afternoon, everyone. A very happy Independence Day to everyone here. Our country is proudly celebrating 73 years of freedom. Yes, and our topic this afternoon is on growth mindset. Let's welcome our speaker this afternoon, Mr. Bhaskar Aspari. He is a multi specialist. He is a freelance trainer in soft skills. He is a trained industrial engineer from NIE Mysore. He is a skilled musician, a certified counselor, a writer, and an audacious reader. He's passionate life skills trainer, not only for students, but also for teachers and working professionals. Let's hear it from Mr. Bhaskar Aspari on growth mindset. Over to you, Mr. Bhaskar.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, and gratitude to you for a kind welcome, kind introduction, and a very warm welcome to all the participants for this talk on growth mindset. And the essence of the growth mindset is basically, is about learning, is about growth and evolution. So today we're going to be looking at, concisely, we're going to be trying to understand what is growth mindset and how is it that we can choose to lead a very fulfilling life through this extraordinary skill. And let me begin by sharing a small story with you. Now, this image, right, it reminds us of the horrors, of the pain and suffering of war. This chilling image here is that of the Nazi concentration camp in Auschwitz. Now, although this reminds us of the various horrors that was inflicted upon human beings, it also today I would like to bring to your notice. I'd like to share with you a story about a man who not only taught us hope, he also demonstrated and lived and gave us the insights into what the human potential actually is. Now, some of you may have heard of him, some of you may have read about him. This is rather Dr. Viktor Frankl, an Austrian neurologist and psychiatrist, and he's best known for his book titled "Man's Search for Meaning." And personally, Dr. Viktor Frankl has been, a huge inspiration. It was, I think, a few years ago when I actually picked up this book called "Man's Search for Meaning," and I was really moved and touched by his story. And not only that, it was, I think, the first time that I discovered what growth mindset could be. And I'm going to very briefly tell you about his story, and how he was able to discover something remarkable about the human potential. So Dr. Viktor Frankl was a prisoner in the Nazi concentration camp, right? And as I said, the conditions of those who lived were completely, I mean, they were monstrous conditions, I can say, right? If we have to understand and look at what was a prisoner's life like in a Nazi concentration camp, it was something like this, right? Daily deprivation and pain. People were dehumanized, people were tortured, people were mistreated, and there were so many horrors inflicted upon prisoners here. And then, of course, they were living in inhumane conditions, right? There was torture, there was mistreatment, and so on. And of course, the prisoners here, who lived in great uncertainties. They were separated from their loved ones, and at the same time, they hardly had any hope, right, about for their future. Whether they're going to get out of there alive, or even while they are there, they are living in such terrible conditions. So, what is the meaning that they can find? You know, what is the quality of life that they're leading there? So when we look at all these things, we may feel that, okay, it is easy for a human being to lose hope. It is easy for a human being to lose courage. These are certainly terrible conditions to live in. But then Dr. Viktor Frankl, while he was there, was able to experience it very differently. Yes, he went through pain. Yes, he went through a lot of torture, a lot of struggles. But yet, it was precisely in that environment of great, suffering, that he was able to discover something very insightful about the human ability. His subjective experience in the Nazi concentration camp was far different from any other prisoner that you can find. And this has a great lesson to teach us all, or rather, it can help us unveil and discover something that we all have as an innate potential. So, when we ask, okay, what made the difference? How was it different for him? How did his experience, his subjective experience, despite all the horrors and torture and all the challenges that were there, all the uncertainties that were there in the camp, how is it that he was able to bring about, he was able to experience it differently? This is the question we got to ask ourselves. So let's see what happened. So this is what Dr. Viktor Frankl says. First thing is, it's very simple, practical wisdom, right? When we are no longer able to change a situation, we challenge to change ourselves. We all want things to be in control, under control, and when and we can, with our technology, with our efforts, with all our endeavors, probably establish some kind of an order, establish some kind of control, but it is quite limited. And when we no longer can change a situation, control a situation, the onus is on us to bring about change and transformation inwardly. That is when the gaze shifts inwards. Now, let us try to understand how this works. All right. Now, let us look at these images here. There are three images, and you can see there are two people here who have a certain experience, right? Certain perspectives. Now you can see one person here says it is 6, one person here says 9. Similarly, the top picture, one person says it's 4, the other person says no, it's 3. And this rather hilarious cartoon, they think they are saved. Both of them here think that they are saved. Now, this has a very important message here. The first thing that we understand by looking at these images is that we respond to perceptions and not to reality. Now, what does that mean? In very simple language, right? For every experience that we have in our lives, moment to moment, we attach some meaning to it, right? This is perception, which is that, okay, we are going through something right now. We have had some experience, some situation, some circumstance, and based upon our own past experiences and various beliefs, etc., we tend to give it a certain meaning, right? And what this is that, and we usually tend to respond to the meanings that we have given rather than how reality actually might be. So what happens is that we tend to form beliefs. This is how belief systems are formed, right? We tend to form beliefs based upon these limited perceptions. As we know, the meanings that we're giving, the perceptions that we're having are limited in their nature. And we have a tendency to form beliefs based upon what meanings we have given to our experiences, right? Now, a simple example would be, if you look at the emphasis on academic scores and marks, right? Now, one student may get 20 out of 100, and that student may, feel that, okay, oh my God, this is the end of my life. And there's another student who might feel, okay, looks like, I have got 20 out of 100. It looks like I hadn't studied properly or I hadn't understood something well. And you can see that it's a simple meanings that they're giving, right? So one student is possibly giving a meaning that may not be helpful to him, and the other student, is possibly giving a meaning to that event, which can help him learn or grow. Now, this is a simple matter of perception and meaning making. So what happens is, often beliefs can either be empowering or beliefs can be limiting. Beliefs are very powerful. The reason the beliefs are very powerful is because a belief is that which we hold to be true. We feel that it is true, though logically, rationally speaking, we may feel, okay, this might not be, this is not necessary. Why am I thinking this way? There's beliefs that we have formed, right? Based upon our experiences and the meanings we have given it, they're very powerful because we feel emotionally, we feel that it is true. And so what happens is a collection of all these beliefs, right? A group of all these beliefs create model, create a model of reality, a sort of a personalized model of reality for us, for each one of us, right? And this is what is called a paradigm or a framework. So usually we tend to operate within this framework. Now, for the person to whom an academic scores, is everything, right? He's operating within that model. But to the other student who said, okay, looks like I hadn't applied myself, it's simply a matter of application or studies or whatever it is. He's trying to possibly learn from what happened. So what happens is that now these beliefs are powerful, and a collection of these beliefs become models of reality, paradigms of reality. Now, one thing we must understand is that, these paradigms are present in every walk of life, and often they are necessary because, we need to have a certain amount of order, we need to have certain amount of harmony, certain amount of control, and so on. But the goal is to be aware of the fact that every paradigm can shift, every model can grow, or any model can become obsolete and can be discarded. Now, there's a difference in awareness in both these cases. So, what happens is these models influence how we act, how we behave, how we respond to events, and how we experience reality. So, we just got a very brief understanding of how beliefs are formed, how perception happens. Now, with this in mind, let's actually try to look at what is a mindset, right? Let's try to define mindset. So, this definition pretty much tells us that, a mindset could be assumptions, methods, beliefs, notions. It could be individual, it could be as a group, right? Basically, they give us powerful incentives to act or behave in a certain manner. All right. So this is basically a mindset, quite simply defined. Now, there's an important question that, I'd encourage all of you to reflect on, right? Are the events in our life happening to us or for us? All right. Now, what is the difference between happening to us or for us? As we saw, this pandemic is a classic example, right? Now, we are not in control of the situation, right? It happened. Yes, we're taking measures, we are doing what is necessary, taking precautions. The researchers are trying to find the vaccine and so on. But then, you see, we may not be in control of everything. And what happens is, there are two ways we can look at it. One is that we tend to feel like we are victims of circumstance. This is what the question asks. Are we victims of circumstances and situations, or is there something more to it? Right? A very good example would be, a story. I'll tell you a very short story, which is that there was a man who had two sons. So this man was quite abusive by nature. At the same time, he was not really possibly creating the right environment for his young sons. It so happened that fast forward many years, one of the sons, became, had great relationships, had an excellent fulfillment, and had fulfillment in his life, was successful in his career, and above all was a gentle, kind human being. Now, the other son, what happened to him was that he modeled after his father's behavior. So he also tended to, get into substance abuse. He tended to, you know, be very aggressive and so on. So in the same environment, two individuals, had different learnings. So one of the sons decided to look at, okay, he was young. As young boys, perhaps, they had very little choice but to live in that environment, perhaps. But then he decided to learn from it and learn those lessons that are empowering. Whereas the other son possibly, looked at it as, from the point of view as a victim, right? That he was victimized, he grew up in a troubled environment, he grew up, with an abusive father and so on. So as we can see, one of them had an insight into how you can learn, you can transform any possible event in your favor, or you can possibly also choose to become a victim. Now, this is a choice that we always have, and that is very insightful. No matter what is now or what will occur, we can always choose right this moment more empowering meanings. Now, we had spoken about meanings, right? That every experience we have, every circumstance that we face, we attach some meanings to it. But the secret to the growth mindset is that we can recognize the fact that we could have difficult circumstances, scenarios, we could have huge number of challenges, but we always have the freedom right at that moment to choose more empowering meanings. And that is very important. And when we do this, what happens is we reframe our reality, and this can help us transform. So when somebody goes to the gym, they obviously do not look at the weights as obstacles, right? In fact, the weight becomes the training tool. So, the pressure or the stress or everything, yes, we have to acknowledge the fact, we have to acknowledge our emotions, we have to, without, suppressing, without rejecting, we need to be able to do that. But the key is to understand that we have the ability to learn, grow, and choose. And this happens by choosing the right attitude, which is about giving empowering meanings to whatever it is that we're experiencing. And then everything in our life will become an opportunity for us to grow. Now, that being said, let's actually try to see what the growth mindset looks like, some of the characteristics of a growth mindset in comparison with the fixed mindset. Now, before I get into this, I need to tell you one small thing about the growth mindset, which is that it's not an all or nothing, right? It's not that we either have a growth mindset or we have a fixed mindset. No, that itself, in fact, is the fixed mindset. We may have the growth mindset in some areas of our lives. We may have the fixed mindset in some areas of our life. So we have a tendency to have both these things. But if we understand it better, we'll be able to move more and more towards the growth mindset and cultivate it in our lives. So let's see a simple, the difference between what is a growth and fixed mindset. All right, the fixed mindset, is averse to challenges, right? Looks upon challenges as threats, and the growth mindset thrives on challenges and does not only embrace challenges but also thrives on it. And the fixed mindset, there is the belief that talent and skill is innate, it's fixed, right? He's born with it or she's gifted. Yes, sometimes we have a difference, but but the growth mindset believes that with effort, talent and skill can be developed. It is possible. And in the fixed mindset, failure is looked upon as proof of lack of intelligence, whereas the growth mindset looks upon setbacks or challenges as opportunities to grow, right? And of course, simple fixed mindset says, I can't do it. And the growth mindset, we have to remember the power of yet. It says, I can't do it yet, right? And of course, there is always the feeling of just looming fear, right? We're threatened by others' successes, but here it is that we find inspiration in others' successes, right? And finally, the attitude is, why should I bother to do it? And whereas the growth mindset says, I'd like to keep improving, I'd like to keep growing. Now, let us look at simple ways in which we can cultivate this growth mindset. First step is awareness, right? First step is always awareness. A lot of us might subconsciously be operating out of these limited belief systems, which we may not have noticed in the past. So every moment in our life is an opportunity for us to recognize where we are operating in the fixed mindset, where we may have these limiting beliefs and so on. So first, self awareness is the key. Every event, every opportunity gives you the opportunity to become aware of these limiting beliefs. Now, the next step you can cultivate is to examine, right? Examine your beliefs and dispute them, right? You can ask yourselves as to, okay, is this belief helpful? Is this belief a reflection, an accurate, does this belief give an accurate representation of reality? You can dispute it. We are rational beings, right? Human beings. So you can always dispute these beliefs and break out of your limitations. Now, the key is we need to understand that we don't have to suppress our emotions. We don't have to deny what we are feeling, and that is the power of being mindful, being aware, right? We can step out of those, step back and look at it, examine it, and dispute it. Now, as we have seen, in the growth versus fixed mindset, that somehow we attach our sense of worth with with knowing everything, right? And this becomes a problem because we will constantly start seeking for approval, seeking attention, and so on. But if your sense of self, if your worth depends upon learning, then automatically every opportunity you get, you will look at every opportunity you get, you will try to learn something from it. So always you can make a simple shift, right? The sense of worth, right? Self-esteem, self-worth, right? That usually, and unfortunately quite so, because our education system has looked down upon failure. I don't wouldn't want to like to use that word, but has looked down upon failure, and has always rewarded doing scores and marks and so on, right? So has always rewarded knowing and has not emphasized as much on learning. So it's important to step out of that and see that uh, and make a simple shift from attaching our self-worth to knowing, to attaching our well-being to learning. That way you'll be able to learn from every opportunity. And this is always about progress, right? The key is not perfection. Perfection sometimes paralyzes, right? Usually, even I am a recovering perfectionist of sorts. Everything has to be perfect. It has to be. I have to be very well prepared. I have to do this and do that before I get into it, and so on and so forth. Now, what happens is this paralyzes you. it doesn't let you actually act, take the steps that are necessary to do demanded or what is asked of you. Now, if you choose, it's important to have goals, but the focus is on the progress, on process, right? So choose progress over perfection. And there is something called the false growth mindset, which I told you about, right? The false growth mindset is that it's either a one or a zero. I either have a growth mindset or I either have a fixed mindset. No. As I said, you may have the growth mindset in some areas of your life. There are some areas of your life where you could be very confident, you would love to learn, you don't mind failing, all those things don't matter. But there are some areas of your life where perhaps you might have some fixed ideas and identities. So become aware of the fact that this is the false growth mindset. To say it is either either you have it or don't. No, it's not like that. We have both of them going on here, and it's up to us to cultivate the growth mindset. And at the same time, it's important to always be able to um, become aware of progress. Now, busyness, being busy, a lot of us have used this term busy, but being busy is not the same as being efficient and being productive, or it may not even necessarily mean that you're making progress. And a lot of us think that we are growing, but we are not. So being busy is not the same as being productive, being creative, being efficient, and so on. So these are, some indicators that you'll have to see, which is the false growth mindset as opposed to the actual growth mindset. Now, remember the power of yet, right? We saw the difference between I can do it versus I can't, or sorry, I can't do it versus I can't do it yet, right? So this can keep you motivated, can keep you can give you that energy required to accomplish the goals that you have set for yourselves. And one thing I encourage all of you to do is to have written goals. It makes a huge difference. It has been proven that people who have written goals and who have also plans of how they wish to accomplish them, what actions they have to take to accomplish them, have a significantly higher probability of achieving their goals. So write down your goals and also write down plans as to how you want to accomplish them. And be flexible in your approach. Find your flow. Now, this is something that I'd spent a few minutes talking about. What is flow? Flow is basically a state that you are in where you are, you know, completely absorbed, completely engaged in whatever it is that you're doing. This is a state where the perception of time itself changes. There is also, no perception of self, the I, me, all that. It is a state where you can be extraordinarily productive, extraordinarily efficient. You can get more done in less time. And the best part about it is it's not just about efficiency, productivity, and all that. It actually is a state of great joy. It's a state of happiness. It's a state of great joy and fulfillment. And a lot of people who are in who are artists, who are musicians, and people who are in extreme sports, especially like surfing and so on, um, they can tap into this flow state at will. Now, this is a skill that you can develop, and it's a very, very powerful skill. So I'll be, sharing with you one strategy, which is flow, which can actually help you. This is a great strategy for you to, accelerate your learning, find happiness, and at the same time grow. Right? This is a great, great strategy for growth mindset. One of the great strategies. So this, although it looks like some complex graph from a textbook, it's very, very simple. It's just this, all right? So you can see that there we talk about skills, challenges, and you can see anxiety and boredom, right? Now, skills and challenges. This graph simply talks about this. Let us say you're very highly skilled at something, right? But the challenge that is given to you is does not really come close to the skill set that you have. Now, very soon, what happens is, you will develop boredom. There's a chance that you will go into boredom as a state of experience. On the other hand, if your skills are still rudimentary, you're just learning something, and you have an extraordinary challenge. Suppose you want to be a tennis player and you have just started playing. If you are if you want to play against somebody like a Roger Federer, that is a challenge which is extremely high considering your current skill levels. In that state, in that condition, you will have a high chance of experiencing anxiety. So flow is that very it's a harmonious balance between skill and challenge, right? You have to be able to assess and understand what is your current skill level and what is the challenge that you're taking on. It's good to push yourself. It's good to push yourself, encourage yourself to push harder, take on difficult challenges. Very good. But the point is, you have to take it step by step. And if you have to experience this flow state, which I'm telling you, which helps you get into, complete 100% engagement into what you're doing and also experience great happiness and joy while doing it, it's a very delicate dance between challenge and skill. And that's what you'll have to see. So if you can assess, right, what are your skill sets and what are your what are the challenges you're taking on, you will have you will be able to actually learn and have fun while learning. That's the best part of it, right? So this happens to everybody. When you are a beginner, let's say, the classic example is the tennis, right? The tennis match example that I gave you, which is that, okay, let us say you start learning how to serve. Now when you start learning how to serve, uh, the first thing is that, okay, initially you'll start enjoying it. Your skills and challenges are in the right ratio and proportion for you to be able to enter into flow. But as soon as you start mastering serve, the service, right, the tennis serve, you will slowly see that, okay, it is no more a big challenge for you and it might take you towards boredom. Now you slowly up the challenge a little, and that is how you increase your skill set, grow, and while at it, if you're able to do it in the right quantity, in the right, just the right amount, right mix, right, you'll be able to be fully engaged in that altered state called flow, and it can be extremely rewarding to you. So I want you all, I encourage you all to try this with whatever skills you're learning or whatever it is that you're endeavoring into. So I want you to take a moment to reflect on something, right? Which is, what are the self-limiting beliefs that you carry? You can possibly do it at home or whenever you're free, but this is something that you will have to think about, reflect on, and look at what are the self-limiting beliefs that you carry. Now, one thing is that, right? There's a statement here which says, if you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them. Now, what that essentially means is that we are way too committed to who we were or who we are when there is so much more we can be. Human potential is beyond anybody's imagination, right? It keeps overwhelming us, it keeps enthralling us, it keeps astonishing us. And the thing is that we tend to be too committed to who we are or who we used to be, which is why it's growing and learning becomes a very difficult process. Changing becomes a very tough thing to do, right? But if we are able to recognize this, what are these self-limiting beliefs that are holding us back, we can always transform and evolve. So remember this: if you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them. And I'd like to also tell you about this statement, which is that now that we have understood what the growth mindset is, which is about learning, evolution, the ability to take feedback, and it's all about growth, right? We see that, okay, there is no such thing called failure. There are just results, right? And this is a very insightful thing, so that our sense, usually we tend to attach our sense of worth, as I told you, to knowing, to succeeding, and all those things. Whereas when we just make a simple shift and attach it to learning and growth, we will see that there is nothing called failure. There are only results. And this can help us to make a fundamental shift in how we experience our reality. Not only that, and also make it a very joyful process. This is something which is an innate ability that all of us had, right? If you have seen children, and children are very spontaneous and they're natural scientists, right? They don't hesitate to ask questions, they don't hesitate to explore and learn. Failure, in fact, is not at all there in their dictionary. It's only after, a lot of conditioning, a lot of indoctrination and stuff like that, that we tend to become rather mechanical and dull in the way we operate. So remember this, that the human potential is massive, and we all can see that there is nothing called failure, and we can choose to learn from the results and experience and grow. Now, back to Dr. Viktor Frankl. This is a very small, section of excerpt from his book "Man's Search for Meaning," right, where he talks about the fact that, okay, there were many who lived in these Nazi concentration camps. There were, he says, he can remember men who were comforting others, who were even giving away their last piece of bread. Yes, they were few in number, such people, but it offers sufficient proof that everything can be taken away from us. Everything can be taken away from us externally, outside circumstances wise speaking. But the last of human freedoms, this is what we always have, which is to choose the attitude in any given set of circumstances and to choose one's own way. This freedom is something that can never really be taken away from us. We always have the choice, we always have the option to reframe our experiences and transform and grow. So, this is a wonderful insight, a wonderful you know discovery that Dr. Viktor Frankl had to share with all of us. And as a recommended reading for all of you, I highly recommend that you pick up these three books and read it. They're going to be invaluable to you. One is, as you know, which I have already mentioned, which is Man's Search for Meaning by Dr. Viktor Frankl. The other one is Mindset, right? This is based on Dr. Carol Dweck's path-breaking work on the growth mindset, where she goes much deeper into what we have discussed today about the growth mindset, about the belief systems, and how it can positively influence your relationships and every relationships, career, virtually every area of life that you can imagine. Now, the next book is also, which I touched upon, which is Flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, which is again a path-breaking research in positive psychology. And these three books have been, invaluable to me, and I'm sure they'll be a wonderful part of, a wonderful collection, wonderful assets and treasures as a part of your collection. And I encourage you all to pick it up and do read it. Now, as we celebrate the 74th uh, year of Indian independence, I would like to bring to your notice, a small part of our Indian constitution. Now, our country has massively contributed to well-being. Great discoveries from philosophy to extraordinary, from philosophers to mathematicians to logicians. There have been some wonderful personalities in our country, and there is enough that we can learn from them. And this wisdom has been there for thousands of years. And today I bring to your notice a wonderful part of our constitution, which talks about excellence as a fundamental duty, which is that it says to strive towards excellence in all spheres of individual and collective activity so that the nation constantly rises to higher levels of endeavor and achievement. Now, today, that is what we spoke about. We spoke about excellence, and excellence is a process. Excellence is a process, and excellence is a process of evolution. And it's an infinite game. we keep growing, we keep evolving, and that is where the joy is. The joy is in the progress, the joy is in the process, right? And I know I this is something that is that that is wonderful that we have included in our constitution, which says that okay, excellence is not an option, right? It's a fundamental duty. And in my um, observation, it looks like any society which is driven by a sense of duty always flourishes, which is driven by duty and excellence always flourishes, right? And I think this is a great work. I really am grateful, that people having that this has been included as a part of our constitution. So, with this being said, I think I'd like to end my talk and open up the forum for any questions or discussions. This is my email ID, and should you feel that you want to just connect up, you want to talk, you have any questions, just feel free to write to me, and no hesitations. So yeah, thank you very much, and I'd like to open up the session for any questions or queries.
Thank you, Mr. Bhaskar, for your talk. And we open the session now for question and answers. Can you please type in your questions in the chat box, and Mr. Bhaskar will address them. Yeah, we have our first question. Who is your inspirational idol, living idol?
Okay. Um, Inspirational idol, living idol. I think there are a couple of people. I am very inspired by Simon Sinek. I think he's a wonderful, very inspiring person. And I learn from a lot of people, to be very frank. And I have a list of names to share. But I would at this point look at Simon Sinek because I think he has a very beautiful vision, for the world. And I would, yeah, I would at this moment I think so. Yeah, Simon Sinek is a huge inspiration. Favorite autobiography. Okay. Um, Man's Search for Meaning is certainly one favorite book of mine. And Swami Vivekananda on himself, yeah, I think is a wonderful book that really inspires me. And yeah, a couple of other books which I'm not able to recall at the moment. But yes, these two books come to mind.
How to psychoanalysis ourselves?
Uh,
How
well, yes, I saw the question. It says how to, psychoanalyze ourselves. Um, I wouldn't really want to comment on psychoanalysis because that's not my field, to be very frank. But what I would say is that the first step towards understanding ourselves is about awareness, right? And there is a very good model that you can use, which is called as Johari window, right? Johari window helps you understand more about yourself in terms of it's basically a simple graph that divides into four quadrants. Okay. Now there are things we know about ourselves which others also know. Now at the same time there are things we know about ourselves with things we don't know about ourselves which others know. And there's also that area of where uh, there are things we know about ourselves that others don't know, and there is an area where it's unknown to both outsiders and ourselves. And through mindfulness, through journaling, through self-awareness, we can understand, okay, what are our own, what are our own beliefs, what are our own, thoughts and thought patterns and feelings and so on. And a good part would also be to engage with people who are, trained in the as professionals, right? So whether it is in the form of a coach or a counselor, if you can get to talk to them, they would help you reflect. They would act as mirrors. So awareness is the first thing, and I would recommend that you look up Johari window. First thing is journal and try to reflect on your own belief systems. Right, look at your goals, look at what you want to achieve, and evaluate and look at that and see, okay, I have these goals, I want to achieve these things, but what is stopping me from doing it? And there you'll see a lot about your belief systems. What are the things that are coming in the way? And this is one way to help you understand more about yourself. Other way is to actually have people, have dependable, genuine human beings or professionals with whom you can interact, who can possibly tell you things about yourself that you may not have noticed. And that's important. So, yeah. But psychoanalysis, no, I wouldn't be the right person to talk to you about it. Okay, the next question is fear of change associated with fixed mindset? Yes, that's right. The first thing is that when it comes to fear, right? If we look back, there was a time when we were hunter gatherers, and fear was a useful mechanism at that point in time because when we went out to get and hunt for food and get food, uh, there were many predators around. So we had to really, really work hard in order to just merely survive. And hence, there is a tendency in us to be biased towards negativity, fear, and so on, and that's why change may be a little bit of a challenging thing. And but that being said, yes, fear of change is coming from that fixed mindset. Is maintaining a journal necessary for clear mindset and goal fulfillment? It's very helpful. I personally do that. And because what happens is when you write it down, after a while, you'll be able to go back and see what you've written. After you'll be able to go back and see what you've written. And it really is helpful. And over a period of time, you would have documented, right, your own thoughts, your own feelings, and so on. So maintaining a journal is extremely essential in order to help you reflect, because otherwise there are a lot of things going on in your head, right? But if you put it down on paper, sometimes that can be extremely beneficial. It's not that it is necessary. Uh, that's up to you. I wouldn't say it's compulsory, but it's a very, very powerful and helpful tool that you can utilize. Definitely, yes. The next question is about how to overcome procrastination and motivation. How do you find motivation? Now, I want to say something about motivation, right? There are a lot of motivational videos out there, a lot of content videos and stuff like that. Now, as we have seen that initially, they feel, we feel very pumped up, we feel very energized, and but in a matter of few hours, we go back to our old patterns of living. So a lot of people have told me that they binge watch motivational videos because at that moment it is making us feel good. So motivational videos can possibly give you a certain feel good, or can give you the initial energy that is required. But what is important is to be able to cultivate powerful habits. You have spoken about procrastination, right? Which is that you don't feel like, okay, let me do it later, let me do it after some time, and so on and so forth. First thing you can do is you can ask yourself why you're doing what you do. And the why is very powerful. A lot of us know what we should do and how to do it. But we don't have a strong enough reason or a strong enough meaning. We don't find that, okay, whatever we're doing is meaningful. And so that makes it difficult. Like we don't want it badly enough, you see. That's because we don't find it to be actually meaningful. Somewhere we push it away for later. What I would suggest is that is to take it step by step, take it slow. Do not try to accomplish too many things at the same time, because it's important for you to get rewired. So it's like this, right? Let us say you have on day one, say you want to wake up at 5 a.m. That's your goal. When you wake up on day one at 5 a.m., it forms, there's a thin connection, right? There's a small line, like a string that is formed, which is when your habit is starting to form, right? And the more you do it, it becomes like, okay, there's a small string, it becomes a small road, and it becomes a big highway, expressway, and so on. Once it has reached that level, it is very powerful. But initially, step by step, you'll need to be able to cultivate these powerful habits. And that's very important. They say that there's 21 days. 21 days is ideal for you to start cultivating a habit, and in 90 days, it becomes a part of your lifestyle. So first of all, when it comes to procrastination, give yourself a powerful reason. Why? Why are you doing why do you need to do what you need to do? And another thing is, try to create powerful habits, which is that you take one small step at a time, small step at a time, on a daily basis.
Take. You only take. George.
Start practicing it. All right. And how to enforce discipline? Well, enforcing may not necessarily be the right way to do it, right? As I said, I think I would again give you the same reasons, which is that uh, you need to ask yourself as to why you're doing what you're doing. If you have a powerful enough why, you will find the how. So you have to be able to understand whether it is a course that you have taken, or whether it is exercising or getting up early in the morning, or any of those habits, right? If you're able to give yourself, this is what Simon Sinek says, right? He makes it very, very clear. Most of us don't have the why. If you can sit, think about, okay, why it is important, why it is that you need to do it, then automatically you'll be able to slowly bring it as a part of you'll be able to give yourself a very powerful meaning as to why it should be done. So try focusing on that. And at the same time, start cultivating habits, powerful habits on a regular basis, but uh, don't try to do too much at once. And okay, can you speak about mind conditioning, its impact and process? So as I said, conditioning basically happens from a very young age, right? And that's where most of us are operating out of. That's where we're operating from most of the time. And how it happens is generally this. It depends upon your immediate environment, right? But as I said, that okay, you always have the option to make a change, and it could be difficult in the beginning because you have practiced something. As I said, right? You have practiced something for such a long time that it has become like a highway. The moment you see that habit has a loop, right? There's cue a cue, and then there's an action that you take, which is a routine, and then there's the response. Cue, routine, response. This is the cycle in which it operates. So since you have been operating out of belief system for all these years, it might be initially, a little bit challenging for you to be able to make the shift. But because you have associated a certain meaning with a certain thing, like for instance, there was a time when I was extremely afraid of the stage, right? I had massive stage fear. And I saw that I had associated a lot of fear with the stage. And what I'm doing today, I could not have imagined doing it, maybe 10 or 15 years ago. And so you see that, okay, you have associated some beliefs which are you know um, not empowering. And the idea is to first of all become aware of what those beliefs are. Why are you not able to? There's a goal that you want to accomplish. Why are you not able to accomplish? Become aware of it. And at the same time, you know that you have the choice to create new habits, new patterns, and much create much more empowering beliefs for yourself. That's very important. So you always have, as I said in the talk today, you always have the ability to choose what you can do about it. You may have had difficult experiences, you may have had tough situations in the past, you may have had cultivated a few beliefs, but it's always possible for you to make that shift. And I encourage you to do that. It's possible, very much possible. Next question is, okay, can you recommend any effective practice, studying practice pattern? Okay, there's one technique that I'll share with you, which is useful, which is called the Pomodoro technique, right? The Pomodoro technique essentially is about, it could, not, it's not only for studying, you can apply it for anything, any kind of a practice that you want to do. For instance, let's take study. So what Pomodoro does is, uh, you can set the timer for 25 minutes, right? 25 minutes, you will first study or whatever it is. You get into the activity. And once those 25 minutes done, for the next 5 minutes, you take a short break. And after 5 minutes are done, again, another cycle of 25 minutes and a 5-minute break. So once you finish 90 minutes like this, which is 1.5 hours, right? 25 minutes of studies, 5-minute break, 25 minutes studies, 5-minute break, again 25 minutes, 5-minute break, then take a longer break and see how many such cycles you can cultivate in that particular day. So this is uh, quite effective, and I also use it. So it's called the Pomodoro, Pomodoro. You can look it up on the internet. You'll find a lot of details about it. But essentially, this is the technique, right? 25 minutes, 5, 25, 5, 25, 5, 90 minutes, and many such cycles. Try this, and you know my email ID. You can write to me and tell me how it went. Sure, yes, works. Payment pattern, yes, you can try it. Absolutely.
Do we have any more questions? I guess this was like another detailed session after session. So we got to learn so much more again. Yes. So we'll just wait for one
Was
last
that too much?
question.
Okay.
No, it was real wealth of information, and we've been learning, and we want to keep you longer. Yeah, there's one more last question we will take, and we respect your time, so we don't want to keep you for long. That's the only thing. We'll take one last question before we close.
Is long-term memory or short-term memory be more important? See, both of them have their functions, have their respective functions. It depends on your goals, right? If there's something that you want to go deep into, you want to learn more about it, of course, yeah, it depends. So I would say that both of them have their own functions, and It depends upon the context. It depends upon the goal. So it's not that one is more important than the other. I wouldn't really put it like that. They have their functions, and it depends on the context and depends on your goal.
Okay, Mr. Bhaskar, we really appreciate your time, your patience, and it was an amazing
Thank you.
session for all of us. It was
Thank
truly
you
a
so much.
treat on Independence Day because, yes, our mind is the biggest battlefield where we have so many different negatives, and to overcome all of this, and your different strategies, your techniques, your tips, we will definitely remember. And I'm sure we've made a lot of notes. And yeah, growth mindset is actually a very, very intense and vast subject. But the way you had
Yeah,
really
it is.
explained was in such a relaxed way that we were able to absorb so much. Personally, I really could absorb a lot of it because I appreciate the way you actually handled the whole session. So thank you so much. And we are definitely looking forward to more sessions with you, Mr. Bhaskar. All the
Thank
best,
you.
and
Pleasure
thank you
was
so
mine.
much.
I thank you for the opportunity for this, and wish all the students the very best. And as I said, please feel free to reach out to me if there's anything right to me.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you
Thank you
very
so
much,
much.
everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you.